The scream that tore through the underground parking garage wasn't just fear, it was the sound of every nightmare colliding at once. Sarah Chen's fingers trembled against the cold concrete as she pressed herself against the pillar, her wheelchair just out of reach where it had fallen during the struggle. The two men advancing toward her wore ski masks and carried knives that caught the fluorescent light in sickening glints. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please don't hurt me. I can't walk." 6 months ago, Sarah Chen had been on top of the world. As CEO of TechVista Solutions, a cybersecurity firm she'd built from her college dorm room into a $100 million empire, she'd graced the covers of Forbes and Fortune. She'd given TED Talks about breaking glass ceilings and disrupting male-dominated industries. She'd been unstoppable until the car accident that shattered her spine and, she'd thought, her entire life. Now, at 34, she was learning to navigate a world that suddenly seemed designed to exclude her. The parking garage of her own company building had become treacherous territory, especially at 9 p.m. on a Friday when most employees had already left for the weekend. She'd stayed late to finish a presentation, something she did often because work was the only place she still felt like herself. The muggers had appeared from nowhere. One had shoved her wheelchair away while the other grabbed her purse. But when Sarah had fought back, screaming for help, their desperation had turned to something darker. "Shut up," the taller one hissed, raising his knife. "Just shut up and give us your codes. We know you've got access to everything." This wasn't a random mugging. This was targeted. Corporate espionage. Sarah's mind raced even as her body remained helplessly immobile against the pillar. They wanted her security clearances, her access to client data worth millions. The knife came closer. Then she heard footsteps, running footsteps echoing through the garage. "Hey! Get away from her!" A man burst around the corner, not large or particularly imposing, wearing worn jeans and a faded Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt. He carried a small Spider-Man backpack in one hand. Everything about him screamed ordinary except for the fearless way he charged straight at two armed men. The muggers turned, and for a moment everyone froze. Marcus Rodriguez had exactly $3 in his wallet, a 12-hour shift at the diner behind him, and a sleeping 6-year-old daughter named Emma waiting in his beat-up Honda. He'd pulled into the garage by accident, taking a wrong turn while looking for the exit after Emma's evening at the library. He should have kept driving. He should have called the police and waited safely in his car. Instead, he'd heard a woman begging for her life, and something in him simply couldn't drive away. "I said get away from her," Marcus shouted again, though his voice shook slightly. He grabbed the first thing he could find, a discarded metal pipe near the garage entrance, and held it like a baseball bat. The muggers exchanged glances. 2 against 1, and they had knives, but something in Marcus's eyes must have told them he wouldn't back down. The element of surprise was gone. Security cameras were everywhere. "This was taking too long. This isn't over." The taller one spat at Sarah before both men bolted toward the stairwell, their footsteps fading into echoes. Marcus stood there, adrenaline coursing through him, hardly believing what he'd just done. Then he remembered the woman and spun around. Sarah was crying silently, her hands covering her face, her body shaking with the aftermath of terror. Her wheelchair lay on its side 6 feet away, one wheel still spinning slowly. Hey, it's okay," Marcus said softly, approaching slowly so he wouldn't startle her. "They're gone. You're safe now." He knelt beside her, carefully setting down the pipe. "My name's Marcus. I'm going to help you, okay? Tell me what you need." Sarah looked up at him through her tears, seeing this stranger with kind eyes and a child's backpack, and something inside her broke open, not with more fear, but with overwhelming relief and an emotion she hadn't felt in months, the simple comfort of human kindness. "My chair," she managed. "I need my chair." Marcus quickly righted the wheelchair, checking it for damage before carefully positioning it beside her. "Can I help you up?" "How should I?" "Under my arms," Sarah instructed, her CEO voice returning despite her tears. On 3. Together, they got her back into the chair. Marcus retrieved her scattered purse, picking up her phone, keys, and the various items strewn across the concrete. He noticed her company ID badge, Sarah Chen, Chief Executive Officer. "You're the boss of this whole place?" he asked, impressed. Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. For whatever that's worth when you can't even get to your car safely. Hey, don't, Marcus said gently. What happened here wasn't your fault. Those guys were criminals, cowards who prey on people. You could have been killed, Sarah said suddenly, really looking at him now. You ran toward two armed men. Why would you do that? Marcus shrugged, looking uncomfortable. My daughter's in the car. I want her to grow up in a world where people help each other. Can't teach her that if I don't live it, you know? Something in Sarah's chest tightened. When was the last time someone had done something for her without wanting something in return? Her world had become so transactional. Board members positioning for power, investors calculating returns, even her own family treating her with a suffocating pity that felt like another kind of prison. Thank you, she whispered. I don't... Thank you doesn't feel like enough. It's plenty, Marcus assured her. Now where's your car? I'll walk you to it. Those guys might still be around. As they moved through the garage, Sarah learned that Marcus was a single father, working 2 jobs to support Emma after his wife had died from cancer 3 years ago. He was a line cook at Danny's Diner and did weekend janitorial work at the community center. He talked about Emma with such pure love that Sarah found herself smiling despite everything. When they reached Sarah's accessible van, she made a decision. Marcus, I want to help you, please. What you did tonight? I don't want money, Marcus interrupted, but not unkindly. I helped because it was right, not for a reward. I know, Sarah said. But I'm going to help you anyway, not because of tonight, but because I can. Because maybe that's what we're supposed to do, help each other when we can. Over the following weeks, Sarah kept her word. She hired Marcus as Tech Vista's head of facilities, a position that paid fairly and came with benefits, including full health care coverage for Emma. She enrolled Emma in the company's child care program. But more than that, Marcus became her friend, the first real friend she'd made since the accident. Marcus taught Sarah to see her wheelchair not as a limitation, but as simply a different way of moving through the world. He modified her office himself, creating accessible solutions with the same practical ingenuity he brought to everything. He never pitied her, never treated her as fragile. He just treated her as Sarah. In return, Sarah gave Marcus opportunities he'd never dreamed possible. She paid for Emma's specialized art classes when they discovered the little girl had extraordinary talent. She became part of their small family's life, attending Emma's school plays, celebrating birthdays, sharing dinners. The police eventually caught the muggers. They'd been former IT contractors planning to sell corporate secrets. Sarah testified at their trial, no longer afraid, Marcus sitting beside her in the courtroom. 6 months after that night in the parking garage, Sarah sat in her office looking at a framed photo on her desk. Marcus and Emma at the beach, both covered in sand and grinning. She'd gone with them that day, her wheelchair not stopping her from feeling the sun and salt air, from being present in a moment of pure joy. Her assistant buzzed. Ms. Chen, your 3 o'clock is here. Send them in, Sarah said, smiling, because the truth was, Marcus had saved her life that night in more ways than one. He'd reminded her that strength wasn't about walking or running or standing on your own 2 feet. Strength was about showing up for each other, about choosing kindness when it would be easier to look away, about building a world where everyone had a place, and that was worth more than any empire she could build.